In this video, I'll be demonstrating the slicing of some guitar backs and sides using the new Heavy Duty Accu-Slice System. In a previous video produced in 2020, we sliced these guitar backs and sides using the standard model Accu-Slice AS266. I also produced several other videos on products for guitars, including the production of some rosettes, inlay strips, bindings, purflings, and linings. Those videos are all listed on our website and also on YouTube. Shown here are a number of boards that I cut with that system as shown in that YouTube video. It performed quite well for slicing of the backs and sides of guitars as shown here. And I can wholeheartedly recommend this system for the amateur or hobbyist luthier or woodworker. Here's an example of a couple of the backs and sides we produced in that video. Here's a matching set of backs made out of Wengi. And here would be the sides, for that same guitar. Matched bookend pieces. I also cut some pieces out of some mahogany. Shown here. Again, there's another matching set. There's some cherry also made, and some Padauk. Even though the previous Accu-Slice system described in that previous video worked quite well, I felt was really needed for the professional luthier or commercial woodworker was a larger and sturdy index table. Therefore, I designed this new Heavy Duty Accu-Slice index table. This is a new Heavy Duty Accu-Slice system we'll be using in this video. This Accu-Slice index table is 36 inches long. Our standard Accu-Slice system, the model AS266, is 26 inches long, so this table is a foot longer. In addition, the plate material is 3/8 of an inch thick, where the standard Accu-Slice system is 1/4 inch thick plates. In addition, the guide bars on the system are 16 millimeter diameter, where the standard Accu-Slice system are 12 millimeter diameter guide bars. And my linear bearings here are much larger also. This bar up front is much stronger. In addition, I have a 6-foot rail in here, and I have rail supports on both ends to give additional stability. All these changes make for a much sturdier and heavier system to give you more accurate cuts on the bandsaw. In this video, we'll be doing a typical luthier application, that is cutting some backs and sides for guitars. So I'm now ready to cut my first set of boards. And what I have here now is a piece of walnut. This walnut is 8 inches tall by 26 inches long, and it's 2 inches thick. And I'll be mounting this to my L brackets in the carriage. Just using some panel wood screws to screw it to the sacrificial fence. Okay, I have my board mounted on my Accu-Slice 2 carriage, and notice how smoothly it operates on the rail and also the index table. So the first thing I would do, I want to cut a slice of board off just to give me a flat surface, so every board after that will be perfectly parallel. And I checked my system before I started, make sure it was perpendicular to the table, which it is. So I'm cutting off about 50 thousandths off the board here just to give me a flat surface. Lock my table here, lock my mag jigs here, also lock my mag jigs on the end of my rail. I moved the camera so you can better see what I'm actually cutting, and this video is sped up 10 times the actual cutting speed. So this first slice is just to give me a flat surface, so all subsequent cuts will be exactly parallel to this cut surface. And again, the blade I'm using is a 10 teeth per inch, 1/2 inch wide blade. I then advance the index wheel 50 thousandths for the curve for the blade, plus another 2 turns, give me a board 100 thousandths of an inch thick, and slice the board off the system. And there's my set of book matched panels. Now I used an 8 teeth per inch, 1/2 inch wide blade for that. It's getting pretty tall for an 8 teeth per inch blade. I might need to go to a 6-inch tooth blade, especially when I go to some woods like Padauk in the future. But for maple and walnut, the 8 teeth per inch blade probably worked pretty well. Fairly smooth surface, a little bit of saw marks, but not very much. So next, let me take this board off. I want to save this for a future cut because I'll be testing this next as soon as I get my hammer bandsaw in. I want to put this on the hammer bandsaw to see what kind of difference I get in the cuts. So this next board is a piece of maple. Again, it's 8 inches tall by 26 inches long and 2 inches thick. Okay, and again, I use the same process as before, cutting off a sacrificial board to give me a flat surface, and then I'll cut 2 boards, each 100,000 of an inch thick. Now, I can cut these boards different thicknesses, but you can make them any thickness you want, from 5 thousandths to 250 thousandths. But for the sake of these guitar backs, I'm making them 100,000 inch thick. Again, the same process was used as was done with the walnut board, cutting off a thin slice to give me a flat parallel surface. Then moving the index wheel 3 full turns. 1 turn for the curve of the blade, and then 2 turns to give me a 100,000 inch thick board. And then I'll be slicing off 2 boards of this maple. And there's my 2 boards. Pretty nice finish. And if I mic these, in measuring the thickness of the board, I got a variation between 0.095 inches and 0.100 inches thick. Plus or minus 2,000 of an inch for the entire, edge to edge and top to bottom. Now, like I said, I'm using an 1/8 per inch blade, which is probably a little too fine for cutting boards this wide. I normally would use probably a 6/2 per inch blade for cutting boards this wide, but it worked pretty good, and it's not gummed up the blade yet. Now this next board, I'm not sure exactly what it is. It might be something like Brandolo or something, but it's a real nice grain hardwood. That should make some really nice backs, so we'll see what it looks like. But it's pretty hard, pretty dense wood, so we'll give it a try. Again, I'm using the same 1/8 per inch blade. I cut 3 boards in that because that first board had some very large knot holes in it toward the surface. But the inner surface would look much better. So here's a book mat set of that wood. It has a nice grain pattern to it, and it came out pretty smooth also. And if I do some additional measurements on this, again, I got a variation between 100 thousandths and 104 thousandths inch thick. So again, nice parallel straight boards, edge to edge, top to bottom. Okay, this next board is a piece of Padauk. And this board is 10.5 inches tall by 32 inches long by about 2 1/4 inches thick. It's a pretty heavy piece of wood. And this can either be used to make the two matchbook sides for the guitar, or it can be cut in half to make the sides for the guitars. But it's a pretty heavy board, and I'm using an 1/8 per inch blade, which is probably too fine. It's probably going to gum up the blade. Based on the history of my experience, this blade's going to gum up pretty quickly, so it may not work. But I have a different blade on order, which should be here in a couple days. If this doesn't work, I'll give that blade a try. So even with all that weight, that size board, you can see how smoothly that rides on the rail. And what I did in setting this up, when I screwed it to the L brackets, I put a thin spacer under the board. This spacer is about 15,000 inch thick, just enough to keep it slightly off the table so it's not riding on the table. So it's just the weight on the system. But that rides nice and smooth. So let's give this a try and we'll see how it works. Again, this first cut is just to cut off a sacrificial piece of the wood to give me a flat surface. But I wasn't more than 1/3 of the way through the board and I started getting a lot of smoking. Gumming up with the blade and just creating a lot of excess smoke. Yeah, Yeah, as I suspected, that blade is too fine. It was smoking quite a bit. Now it cut okay. Some marks and anything in bandsaw blade marks, but that blade is just too fine. So in the next 3 or 4 days, I have a new blade coming, which I can try and see how that works. In the previous section, I was trying to cut this piece of Padauk, which is almost 10.5 inches tall. And I was getting a lot of smoking of the blade. And I was using an 8 teeth per inch blade to do that cutting. And I prefer using 8 and 10 teeth per inch blades because I get nice smooth cuts. But this board is much taller and thicker. And also Padauk produces a lot of gumming up of the blade. So I needed to go to a coarser blade. So I decided to try the Highland wood slicer blade. This has been recommended by several of my customers. They claim it runs quieter and smoother and gets smoother cuts. I prefer not to use 3 and 4 teeth per inch blades in the past because they tend to give a very rough cut. But I've had a lot of comments from customers recommending it. So as a result, I'm going to go ahead and try it. So I just ordered it. It just came in yesterday. So I installed it on my bandsaw. And this is a 3 to 4 tooth, it's variable tooth bandsaw blade. So we'll give it a try and we'll see how it works. See if we get less smoking of the blade, see how much gumming up of the blade we get, and how smooth of a cut we get with the blade. So this will be the first time I've ever tried this blade. Again, this first cut just gave me a sacrificial piece of wood to give me a flat surface. But this board cut pretty nice, pretty smooth, and with no smoking of the blade. Okay, that was my first cut, and there was no smoking of the blade. There's no gumming up of the blade, it's nice and clean. It did seem to run quieter, but the surface of the wood, I see more bandsaw blade marks on this than I see with my 8 teeth per inch blade that I ran previously, which I expected. It's a coarser tooth blade, I expect more saw marks. So this might have to be run through a board sander. Then they'd run through a board planer, but definitely through a board sander to reduce some of the bandsaw blade marks. But for cutting taller boards, this going to a 3 to 4 tooth per inch blade may make more sense. I said it didn't come up at all, it didn't smoke at all. It came out nice and clean. And I did use my air blaster to blow air down the back side of the blade. And this does two things. Number one, it helps cool the blade, but secondly, it blows the sawdust out from the kerf in the blade, the board between the two pieces of wood. But let me cut another board just to verify this, but it does seem a little bit more coarser of a cut than the 8 teeth per inch blade. Yeah, that smooths the board. It's a coarser finish than my 8 teeth per inch blade, which is I would expect since it is a 3 or 4 teeth per inch blade. But this can just be run through a board sander to smooth this out. It'll be a fine finish. But I had no smoking of the blade. There's no gumming up of the blade. It's nice and clean. And it did seem to run quieter. I definitely saw a difference in noise level. Sometimes with my blade I get a squealing noise. I usually wear headsets just to block out that squealing noise, but I didn't get any of that with this. This definitely is a quieter running blade, but definitely a coarser finish. Let me take some measurements on this, see how we're doing. Now I'm measuring across multiple pieces because of the saw marks, so I expect a little more variation. I measured the thickness of the board at various distances along the edges, both top and bottom of the board, and I got a variation between 120,000 of an inch and 130,000 of an inch thick. It was somewhat hard pushing the board through the bandsaw blade at a nice, slow, constant, steady speed. So it's hard to get a nice, smooth, movement of the board through the blade, which contributes to some of the saw marks I've seen. Now this might be a good blade to try when I get the automated Accu-Slice system fully developed, because with that system I can go through at a constant, even speed and at a very slow speed. I can cut that through at maybe 10 inches per minute or even less than 10 inches per minute. A nice, slow, smooth cut. And by doing that, the blade acts like a planer, gets rid of these saw marks. So my guess is this will come out really nice with the automated Accu-Slice system. So that's something to try in the future. Just want to see if you can see a comparison between the two cuts. This piece of walnut here was cut with my 8 teeth per inch blade on the bandsaw. And this piece of Padauk here was cut with this new Highland wood slicer blade, which is 3 to 4 teeth per inch. And you can definitely see more saw marks in this blade. This is a smoother cut. You know, the saw marks are much finer, and you know, there are some minor saw marks on it, but they're much finer and thinner. And these tend to be more coarse, which is expected because I'm going from an 8 teeth per inch blade to a 3 to 4 teeth per inch blade. So you would expect this to be a coarser finish. This concludes this video on the slicing of some boards using the new Heavy Duty Accu-Slice System. And in this video we sliced some boards to be used for backs and sides of guitars. And the boards cut in this video were included some maple, some Padauk, some walnut, and some unknown other woods. And these boards all varied in width from 8 inches to 10.5 inches wide, and average about 2.5 inches thick. And from those boards I cut all these backs to 100,000 inch thick. Due to the improvements in the design of the Heavy Duty Accu-Slice system, you do get a more stable cutting of these boards. Adding legs to the system gives you more rigidity to the system that doesn't vibrate as much. Adding the extensions supports on the end of the rails also gives you additional support to reduce vibration. And the larger guide bars on the system makes it much easier to slide your board to accurately index the thicknesses of your boards. So in general, all these features improve the operation of the system to give you smoother cuts and better thickness of the boards on your bandsaw. However, we did get very similar results with our standard Accu-Slice system. It's just that it's not as stable for doing big and heavy boards. If you're doing smaller boards, it's fine. This system is more designed for the professional woodworker who wants to cut bigger and longer boards. We have more weight on the system. This piece of Padauk probably weighed 15, 20 pounds. It's a pretty heavy board, and it was easy to run on this system. It rides very smoothly on the rail. So once again, I want to thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions, concerns, or comments, as always, please give us a call or drop us an email. We're always happy to hear from you. This is the setup of the Heavy Duty Accu-Slice system, which is recommended for use by a luthier. It consists of the following components. First of all, you have your Heavy Duty Accu-Slice index table with 4 legs. Next we have a 6-foot rail, and the rail is supported on both ends by support plates and these bench grinder stands. On the rail I have my Accu-Sled tube carriage. This is a 30-inch long carriage. I have 6-inch L bracket supports on here, and I have brushes on the edge of the carriage to push away dust. In addition, on our website, there's other sizes of rails and rail bracket supports and other components that could be used for other applications, such as making your purflings and bandings using this system. This system, as it's shown, will be offered as a complete standalone system, or you can purchase it a la carte by ordering each of the parts individually. Additional details on a Heavy Duty Accu-Slice system are available on our website.